To hold power across the vast Central Asian steppe, a nomadic people must solve the problem of distance. In an environment defined by extreme thermal shifts and scarce resources, survival depended on the precision of their organizational structure. In the 8th century, the founders of the Göktürk Khaganate carved their internal logic directly into the landscape. This is the Kül Tigin monument, a monolith in the Orkhun Valley dense with runic inscriptions that detail the state's functional requirements. The origins of the state are recorded by their neighbors with a specific bias. Early Chinese chronicles from the Sui and northern Zhou dynasties categorized the ruling Ashina clan as blacksmith slaves toiling for the Orkhun Khaganate in the Altai Mountains. That expertise in metallurgy provided a specific technological wedge. Mastery of iron production gave the Turks the weaponry needed to overthrow their Orkhun overlords in 552 AD, transforming them from laborers into the region's dominant military force. The Göktürk state operated through a specific logic of administration and law that allowed it to stabilize a region previously defined by fluid tribal loyalties. It was a system built on repeatable principles of coordination. To see how a single sovereign projected authority from Manchuria to the Black Sea, we must deconstruct the components of this system: its dual administration architecture, its concept of legitimacy, its legal code, and its control of trade. Surviving the geopolitical pressures of the steppe required a move away from loose tribalism. The Göktürk succeeded by building a unified geopolitical structure that functioned with the regularity of a machine. The foundation of this system is the concept of il. In the old Turkic model, an il is a legally organized political entity consisting of an independent people, a defined territory, and a shared code of law. Controlling the vast steppe required the ikili teşkilat, or dual system, dividing administration into two nodes. The eastern node, Otoken, was the sovereign seat of the Great Khagan. The western node, managed by a yabgu, directed the frontiers while remaining tethered to the east. Policy was debated within the toy, or Kurultai. This assembly functioned as the core legislative and executive body of the empire, where tribal leaders and officials gathered to deliberate on war, peace, and the succession of the Khagan. A civilian bureaucracy managed the state's logistical needs. Appointed officials held specific portfolios. Tuduns acted as provincial governors and tax supervisors, while Yargans served as judges within a structured legal system. While the neighboring Tang Empire relied on a massive, centralized bureaucracy, the Göktürk state used a distributed model designed to accommodate the mobility of its population. This dual system provided a scalable architecture. It balanced the need for a central sovereign with the local flexibility required to manage regional conflicts across a continental landmass. The stability of the state rested on a concept of legitimacy rooted in Tengriism, the belief in Göktanrı, the sky god. The right to rule was Kut, a mandate from Tengri flowing to the Khan, who served the Budin, the people. This mandate was conditional. If the Khan failed to protect or enrich the population, the connection shattered, proving Tengri had withdrawn the Kut. This was reinforced by the foundational history of the Ashina clan, whose members claimed descent from a divine she-wolf. This connection linked the ruling family's survival to the sacred origins of the Turkish people. Physical standards projected this authority across the landscape. The Khan bestowed wolf-headed tus, ceremonial banners, upon his generals, signaling that their local power was an extension of his divine mandate. Unlike the absolute monarchies of medieval Europe, where divine right was often viewed as permanent, the Göktürk concept of Kut required constant verification through successful performance. By tying the ruler's right to rule to the economic and physical security of his subjects, the system created a mechanism for accountability that checked the power of the Khagan. The practical behavior of the state was regulated by the Torah, the supreme customary law. In the Orkhun Inscriptions, the founders warn that while the state may fall, the Torah must remain for the people to survive. The Torah applied to everyone, including the Khagan. Its statutes were enforced by the Yargans, who formed a judicial class responsible for maintaining order between competing tribal confederations. The inscriptions themselves were intended for permanence. They record the strategic anxieties of a state surrounded by sedentary rivals, carving warnings into stone to prevent future generations from abandoning their laws. The strategist Tonyukuk issued a specific warning against the adoption of foreign religions, like Buddhism, and the building of walled cities. He argued that settling in one place would be the first step toward the empire's collapse. The tactical logic was grounded in the nomadic lifestyle. Mobility was the Turks' greatest defense. It eliminated static targets and allowed their armies to retreat or strike without the burden of defending fixed locations against the larger Chinese military. The Tang court utilized a counter-strategy of soft power, offering sweet words and soft silk to tempt the nomadic elite into a lifestyle of sedentary luxury and dependency on Chinese trade. Rejecting urbanization was not a failure to develop, it was a deliberate choice. Remaining a mobile, rugged society was a survival strategy required to maintain a military edge over the sedentary empires to the south. The state's military and administrative functions required a continuous supply of resources. This wealth was generated through the control of the Silk Road. A nomadic confederation is held together by the acquisition and redistribution of wealth. The Khaganate functioned by extracting resources from trade routes and neighboring states, then channeling those assets back to tribal leaders to ensure their loyalty. Under Istemi Yabgu, the Göktürks coordinated a military campaign with the Sasanian Empire of Persia. This alliance dismantled the Heptalite Empire, placing the central Silk Road transit hubs under Turkish control. When the Sasanians later blocked the silk trade to protect their own interests, the Turks used Sogdian diplomats to open a direct channel to Constantinople. They forged a military alliance with the Byzantine Empire, bypassing their former Persian allies. This alliance forced the Sasanian Empire into a two-front war, a move that ensured trade continued to flow through Central Asia on Turkish terms. This system had a specific vulnerability. If trade was disrupted or the treasury failed to provide for the subordinate tribes, the central authority lost its primary tool for maintaining order. The resulting breakdown in wealth distribution often led to the internal civil wars that fractured the state during the 8th century. Diplomacy was a tool for economic survival. Every alliance was a calculated attempt to secure the resources required to keep the tribal confederation from fracturing. The Göktürk state eventually collapsed in 744 AD, but its administrative methods established a standard for political organization that survived for centuries. The enduring nature of this legacy is visible on the modern Azerbaijani 5-manat note, which features the Orkhun runic script as a foundational symbol of cultural and political identity. The Göktürk system relied on 4 distinct components: Tangrism for legitimacy, the Tore for discipline, mobility for defense, and the Silk Road for economic power. The empire's fall was not caused by external military force alone, but by the gradual decay of these components, specifically the breakdown of tribal cooperation and the loss of nomadic discipline through assimilation. The Göktürks created the foundational model for the military bureaucratic states that followed. Their methods of dual administration and performance-based legitimacy influenced everything from the Uyghur Khaganate to the Ottoman Empire. The Göktürk system demonstrated that first principles of organization and ruthless pragmatism could turn a nomadic people into a continental power, capable of holding ground in the most contested environment on Earth. To explore more about the systems that built history's most influential empires, subscribe to Tarihin Rotası, hit the notification bell, and join the discussion in the comments.